women are rageful all the time and for good reason. So I think that I've given permission, that the character's given permission for a lot of women to be angry, which I enjoy. I'm happy about that. There's always something to be angry at. I remember like previous seasons when I was raising teenagers, I could always get into a rage about something. Politics, whatever it is, it's easy for me to tap into. However, I'm not that angry of a person in real life.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
So it's kind of this release,
Welcome to On Brand with Donny Deutsch. I am Donny Deutsch, and this is the podcast that is set up based on a simple premise that everything today is a brand. Every person, every celebrity, every athlete, every politician, every product, every company, every institution, everything's a brand today. A brand is a set of values, and we do two things on the show. First, we interview a iconic personal brand about their own brand, and today it's Susie Essman. Susie is one of the stars of Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is coming back in the next week or so for I think it's its 11th season. I'm not sure, but Susie is hysterical. She's brilliant. She is going to rock your world, make you laugh today. And we're going to talk to Susie and have a lot of fun with her. But first, it's our brands of the week. And these are the brands that are shaping the zeitgeist in terms of what's going on, where we're going, how we're getting there. And let's get right into which brands are up and which brands are down. Let's start with Donald Trump, a brand neutral, but I just figured I just include this in a private speech at a Republican donor retreat Thursday. Trump, unprompted, brought up the unsubstantiated claim that he had interactions with prostitutes that he said about golden showers. He says, "I'm not into golden showers," he told the crowd. The great thing, our great first lady, that one, she said, "I don't believe that one." He was, of course, referring to the allegations of the Steele dossier. Mueller debunked that, but just Trump unsolicited had to bring up that he's not into golden showers. So I thought I'd start off today's podcast with that one and just give Trump a neutral for that, because what else are you going to do with that? Here's a lovely one, a huge brand down for the Carroll Independent School District in Texas that tells teachers that books about the Holocaust must be balanced with books offering opposing views. I'm going to say that again. You must balance opposing views of if there's a book about the Holocaust, there's got to be the other side of it. I'm waiting to hear that argument. They said, according to the order recording obtained by NBC News, the training session came 4 days after the Carroll School Board, responding to a parent's complaint, voted to reprimand a fourth grade teacher who had kept an anti-racism book in her classroom. Now, the official said, try to remember the concept of House Bill 3979 and make sure you have a book on the Holocaust that you have one on as an opposing view and other perspectives. It's this Texas Senate Bill 3 that every book has to have an opposing view. One teacher said anonymously, we were literally afraid they were going to be punished for having books in our classes. There are no children's books that show the opposing perspective of the Holocaust or the opposing perspective of slavery. We're supposed to get rid of all the books on these subjects. Fucking scary stuff. So there's the Carroll School District in Texas. A lot of good things happening in Texas. I say that with tremendous sarcasm. Brand up to Pete Buttigieg, brand down to Tucker Carlson. This is a great one. Pete Buttigieg, who just had twins with his partner, took a parental leave, which you're able to do legally. He said he was blessed to kind of the family leave the Biden administration is seeking to make the national standard. A lot of Republicans, critics faulted him for taking time off with his husband and two newborns. And here's a great one. This is from Tucker Carlson. Pete Buttigieg has been on leave from his job since August after adopting a child. Paternity leave, they call it. Trying to figure out how to breastfeed. No word on how that went, Carlson said. What a douchebag Carlson is. I mean, here's a guy, what century are you living in that you're going to actually make fun of a guy that way? Are you that homophobic? What is it, pal? What is it, Mr. Carlson? And there we go, a brand down for him. Okay, a brand down for anti-vaxxers. It's easy to forget that people are still, that's not easy to forget. It's just, let's not forget when people are still dying. A new study shows 90,000 COVID-19 deaths in 4 months were preventable. This is basically 91% of those people died of COVID could have been saved by the vaccine. So we have like almost 100,000 deaths. Think about that. The 100,000 deaths that if just people are getting vaccinated could have been avoided. It's insanity. It's insanity. A brand up for nurses. Nursing schools are seeing applications rise despite the COVID burnout. Nurses around the U.S. are getting burned out by the COVID and they're leaving their jobs. But applications to nursing schools are rising, driven by educators saying young people who see the global emergency as an opportunity and a challenge. So nursing applications for nursing schools is up. Enrollment in bachelor's, master's, and doctoral nursing programs increased by 5.6% in 2020, which translates to over 250,000 new nurses. So there you go. Brand down for Jamie Dimon, who I have a lot of respect for. Jamie Dimon is the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, one of the prolific bankers of our time, a good guy, and a really, really smart guy. But he's basically says, I personally think that Bitcoin is worthless during an Institute of International Finance event. He goes, I don't want to be a spokesperson. I don't care. It makes no difference to me. Our clients are adults. They disagree. That's what makes markets. So if they want to have access to buy yourself Bitcoin, we give them access. Diamond told the interview he thinks regulators are going to regulate the hell out of it. He may be right, but here's why I believe Bitcoin is here to stay, or facsimiles thereof, is if you have enough young people that believe that this is the currency, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think there are going to be twists and turns here, but I think cryptocurrency is here to stay. I own a little of it. I'm not recommending to anyone. But on the flip side, CNBC warns that crypto could cause 2008 level meltdown. This is from the Bank of England official, warns this on CNBC. It's not CNBC saying it's the Bank of England official. And basically the premise there is that this is basically the growth of Bitcoin in the last 5 years, gone from an overall Bitcoin worth or crypto worth 16 billion to 2.3 trillion. He said that's similar to this, the 1.2 trillion subprime mortgage market of 2008. When something is growing that fast and it's unregulated, it's a recipe for trouble. So there are two conflicting stories on Bitcoin. Okay, brand up to Apple. You got to keep buying Apple stock. Here's all you need to know. This is just talk about the ubiquity of iPhones. A whopping 87% of U.S. teenagers have iPhones. I want to say that again. Almost 9 in 10 U.S. teenagers don't own anything that's the same. Think about a product, and an expensive product, and a product that's used all the time and is kind of the focus of their universe, that 9 out of 10 teenagers have an iPhone. That's according to a new survey of 10,000 young people from the investment bank Piper Sandler. It rose 1 point. 30% of teens said they owned an Apple Watch during the survey, up from 25 a year ago. It's just incredible. 14% of the, while we're on the teens, consume plant-based meat. They spend money on looks. Clothing, 22% is eclipsed food. But boy, all you need to know about Apple. And by the way, they're teenage. You create your brand wardrobe, your brand allegiances when you're in your teens, and you stay with them for life. They change, obviously, and the car you're driving as a teen is probably not there. But if you got an iPhone, you're not going to trade it in for something else. So there you go. Speaking of teens, brand down for TikTok. Teen girls are developing tics, doctors say, and TikTok to be a factor of it. Teenage girls across the globe have been showing up at doctors' offices with tics. That's obviously a physical jerking movement. And basically, here's some stats. In March 2020, Texas Children's Hospital was reported seeing approximately 60 teens with such tics, whereas doctors said there were 1 or 2 cases the year before. Johns Hopkins at the Tourette Center, 10 to 20% of pediatric patients have described acute onset tic-like behaviors, up from 2 to 3% the year before. And a lot of doctors are subscribing this to something as related to TikTok, that it's just getting into the brain and it's just causing these TikTok-type tic movements. Crazy, crazy stuff. Brand down to the U.S. workforce. A record 4.3 million workers quit their jobs in August. I'm not quite sure what that means. It's not a good thing. Is this still the result of all the extra money people got from the stimulus? I don't think so. Is it the result of people post-pandemic seeing kind of a new vision of life? But I don't know what these people are doing for a living, but it's not a good thing. I got to tell you that way. Okay, brand up for Joe Montana. Now, Joe Montana, of course, San Francisco 49ers, the second greatest quarterback of all time after Tom Brady. You got to give Tom a GOAT. He's preparing for the biggest windfall of his venture capitalist career. GitLab, which he's one of the initial owners, are supposedly is going to have a $10 billion IPO. That's what their valuation is worth. A $100,000 investment that he made is now worth, well, according to this, if this goes, $42 million. So there you go, Joe Montana. Adele, brand up. Her new single, Easy on Me, shatters Spotify, Amazon Music records. People were wondering, she disappeared for about 6 years since her last single, which was 25, I think it was called 25. Her new album is called 30. And this is a single that got released. And it's just something about Adele just blows through everything. Everybody was wondering, it's 6 years later, the music business has changed. It's ever changing. Is she still going to have that weight? And Adele, I don't mean literally weight, she certainly has it. And good for Adele. She is brilliant. Brand up for Daniel Craig. And he actually got shit from some gay organizations, which I don't understand. He said he's always frequented gay bars. He says he does it because it helps him avoid fights. He said he started going to gay bars when he was young because he wanted to avoid getting in a punch-up. He's married to Rachel Weisz. And he says gay bars would just be a good place to go. Everybody was chill. You didn't really have to sort of state your sexuality. It was a very safe place to be. And I could meet girls there. A lot of girls there for the same reason I was there. And some members of the LGBT community thought it was somehow disrespecting gay bar. Like, I don't get that one. I mean, I guess in this world when everybody comes out with anything, but good for Daniel Craig. Superman, brand up. Superman changed his motto to truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. Of course, we know Superman as truth, justice, and the American way. I'm guessing because of Superman's global marketability. They don't want to make it truth, justice, and the American way. And another brand up for Superman, DC Comics ushering a new Man of Steel. The new Superman, Jonathan Kent, who is the son of Clark Kent and Lois Lane, will soon have a romantic relationship with a male friend, DC Comics announced Monday. The same-sex relationship is just one of the ways that Jonathan Kent, who goes by John, is proving to be a different Superman than his famous father. There you go. So the gay offspring of first Superman. Brand up for something called Helloportation. This is really interesting. A company called Portal, P-O-R-T-L, says a 7-foot-tall booth in which you can beam a 3D image of yourself anywhere in the world. It's interesting. In the age of COVID-19, it's valuable to have a break, project someone from point A to point B. The technology will make it it's a bit expensive, but it's basically for the price of $10,000, you can beam a 3D image of you anywhere. You can send a loved one. I think this has business applications. I think that's really interesting. Holoportation. Okay, this is an interesting one. A brand up coming towards Christmas a couple of months away for small squishy toys, and here's why. They said that about 85% of toys sold in the United States are made in China. And the spot rate of booking a 40-foot container from Shanghai to Los Angeles, those huge containers that come on boats and whatnot, have doubled. They're up 230%. So a lot of toy makers are cramming the containers with little cutie Totos, little furry stuffed animals wrapped in burrito-like blankets. It's a simple case. You can put so many more squishy little toys than the kind of the Tonka trucks or the Care Bears. So you're going to see a lot more little squishy toys because they're a lot cheaper to get here. I just thought that was interesting. I don't know why. I just wanted to include that in there. And finally, brand up to Elon Musk. He is now worth $230 billion. Yes, more than Bill Gates and Warren Buffett combined. His stock grew about $60 billion last year. So he made $60 billion in net worth last year. Something's crazy in this world. I don't know, but, got to give it to him, Elon Musk. But there is something wrong in this country where I think statistically 20 people, or no, maybe even 6 people have same amount of wealth as the bottom 50% poverty. So I don't know what the answer is. We have free enterprise, we have capitalism, and obviously he's doing a lot of good things, but a little crazy. And those are our brands of the week. Now let's get to our interview with Susie Essman. You're going to enjoy it. She is one of the funniest people around. She's also one of the nicest people around. And when new season of Curb Your Enthusiasm is starting, we're going to hear all about it. And the travails with Larry David. Here's my interview with Susie Essman. Okay, I want to talk about Shopify. And Shopify is the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. You got to use Shopify. It's a platform designed for anyone to sell anywhere, giving entrepreneurs, guys like myself who built a company, the resources once reserved for big business. They customize your needs with a great-looking online store that brings the idea to life and manages day-to-day and drives sales. It's really fantastic. It's Shopify powers over 1.7 million entrepreneurs just like me, from first sale to full scale. Everything you need to sell, every device, every tool, everything is Shopify. This is the way to go. Gain knowledge and confidence and extensive resources to help you succeed. Every 28 seconds, a small business owner makes their first sale on Shopify. Get started by building and customizing your online store with no coding or design experience. And plus, with 24/7 support, you're never alone. It's more than a store. It helps your business grow. You want to sell anything, Shopify. Go to shopify.com/Donny. That's all lowercase for a free 14-day trial and get full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. Start selling on Shopify today. Go to shopify.com/Donny right now. Shopify.com/Donny. Guys, this is really smart. Guys and women. I just use the word guys, but Shopify. Okay. I want to talk to you about Trade Coffee. Trade, Trade. Would you consider yourself a certified coffee nerd or a self-professed coffee newbie? Either way, you need to hear about Trade. Trade's goal is to make every cup of coffee your best effort. The journey to your perfect cup starts with taking their coffee quiz. Do you use a French press, automatic drip? You're a cold brew person. No problem. Your answers will allow Trade to pair you with the perfect coffee to fit your taste. If you're a coffee person, you got to try Trade. It's really going to kind of up your coffee game. It guarantees you'll love your first match. On the off chance you don't, they're replaced with a different bag for free. We'll match you to coffees you love from 400 different craft coffees. So yeah, you go to your coffee places now and you get your coffee wherever you get it or you make it. There are 400 craft brews out there. Go on Trade Coffee. You can match up with one of them, and you don't realize how great coffee can even be better than it is. You get feedback as you sip, as your preferences evolve. Your coffee matches will too. You can feel good about each cup since Trade partners with 55 small U.S.-based roasters who are committed to ethical, sustainable sourcing. For all our listeners right now, Trade is offering your first bag free and $5 off your bundle at checkout. To get yours, go to drinktrade.com on brand and use the promo code on brand. That's drinktrade.com on brand and use promo code on brand. Take the quiz to start your journey to the perfect cup. I did the quiz. It's really easy. It's really interesting. I checked this thing out. It's very, very, very cool. So Trade Coffee, go on. Take the quiz. It's interesting. You're not committed to anything, but go on, take this quiz, and I think you get a kick out of it. I am thrilled at today's guest. She's one of my favorite people. She's brilliant. She is Susie Essman, brilliant stand-up comedian. Best known, of course, as Susie Green on Curb Your Enthusiasm, also as her book, What Would Susie Say? Bullshit Wisdom About Love, Life, and Comedy. She was the voice of Mittens and Bolt. She's a stand-up. She's done so many things, and I am thrilled to have her today. Susie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Donny. I was thinking about this, and I love you too. And I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, I'm a branding nightmare.
Yes. Well, the way we always start on the show, what would you say the Susie Essman brand is?
Well, I don't do any social media.
Right.
So, what is the Susie Essman brand? It depends on which Susie. Is it my stand-up brand? Is it my acting brand? Is it? I would say it's just me. I would just say it's authentic and no bullshit and enjoying myself doing what I'm doing.
All right, that's good. That's a good brand. Obviously, anybody that looks at you is going to immediately superimpose Susie Green. I mean, you live with this your whole life. This is. You've talked so many times about people coming up to you saying, "My wife is just like you," or "I'm just like you," and it's not always
the good and the bad.
Yeah.
I mean, that is great that I play an iconic character. I couldn't be happier. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and I was saying somebody said to me in 1983. When I first started doing stand-up, that this is what my life would end up. This is what my career would end up being. I take it.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing ride. It's also, there are downfalls to it. I mean, I'm pigeonholed into that character.
Yes.
People think that's all I do. People think I'm her. So it's the good and the bad.
I just want to go back to early in your career. You're doing stand-up at, I think, Catch a Rising Star. And you, as stand-ups do, you're sitting at the bar the whole night during everybody else's sets, and that's how you met Larry.
That's right. 85 maybe. What I remember, Joy Behar, we started together.
You guys are good buddies, you and Joy.
Yeah, she's my best.
She's a dog.
Yeah. And we would hang out at the bar at Catch a Rising Star. And so much of stand-up is hanging out at the bar with other comedians.
Yes, every comedian's memoir I've heard, like that's it. That's where it happens. That's where the breaks happen.
And it's kind of great because it's your cheers. You walk into a club, and in those days there was so few clubs and so few comedians, and everywhere you went, you knew everybody. I didn't need a boyfriend all those years. I had Saturday nights I was busy. I was working.
Yeah.
New Year's Eve I was busy. That was a money night. You know, and everywhere you go, you just every bartender, every waitress, every comic. So we'd be hanging out. Those were good days. The 80s were really, really fun days in the comedy world. And we'd be hanging out at the bar, and Larry would just be telling us all his dating tales of woe, one thing after another, which then became all the George Costanza storylines.
Yes,
All of
you
them.
remember watching Seinfeld and saying, "Oh my God, I used to hear that story. I used to hear that story."
Exactly.
And
And as a matter of fact, Jason Alexander has said that he would get the scripts and he would read the script and he would say, "Oh, come on. Nobody ever acted like
yeah,
this. This never happened to Ed." And Larry would be like, "It happened to me.
right.
It happened to me."
Do you remember back then knowing that this guy was something special? I mean, he was a comedian. He had the crazy hair on, it looked the bozo hair, and
Yeah, yeah.
he had done
Well,
a few failed things, some of those Saturday, Friday night shows
he
and
did
different.
Fridays and a
Yeah,
bunch of, and he was a writer on SNL, which was
which
a
was a
disaster
disaster for
for
him.
him.
Yeah, yeah,
Total disaster. Um, here's what if I would have said to anybody at the bar at Catch a Rising Star in those days, Larry's going to be more successful and richer than all of us combined, nobody would have believed it.
yeah,
However, we all knew he was brilliant and a genius.
yeah.
That was
You just didn't know if it was going
unequivocal.
to translate on a mass scale. I mean, that was
It,
his
it,
problem on SNL.
that it never seemed like it was going
Yeah,
to. It really never seemed like it was going to. As a stand-up, he had the most brilliant material. And we would all sit in the back of the room and watch him because he was volatile. You never knew when he was just going to storm off stage or just, have a fight with somebody in the audience because they looked at their watch or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
So it was fun for us, but we all knew that this was a genius writer and hilariously funny and unique. A completely original voice.
I want to stay on the early years because being a woman comedian was very different than today. Today, it's a matter of
It was
fact, and
really hard.
everybody's treated the same. Give me the kind of the Susie version of being a female comedian in 1985, being one in 2021.
Well, when you're doing stand up, everything's about stage time. You can't practice in front of a mirror, you can't practice in a class. You got to be in front of an audience. So it's all about getting the spots. And that was in the beginning the biggest struggle because they would have a lineup, on a weeknight that would be these showcase clubs and there would be like 10, 15 comedians. They'd only put one woman on.
Yeah,
And it would be male, male, male. So you were fighting, and I never wanted to fight against my sisters.
yeah.
They caused this competition between us. There was one club downtown called Comedy U on 13th Street and
Hmm.
University, which was a fantastic place that had all female night. I think it was one of the first ever. So we gravitated towards that. But there was a real struggle to get spots because I don't know why they wouldn't put more than one woman on. Maybe they thought we were all going to talk about our periods.
Well, the same reason they probably didn't put more.
All the men talked about masturbation, so who cares?
I'm sure they didn't put more than one black face on. Also, I mean,
Exactly,
it's just like that.
exactly.
Look.
That's the way that it was, and there was definitely a feeling. What's interesting, I never felt this about Larry or some of the other really terrific comics, Jon Stewart. I never felt this from them, but from the mediocrities is where you really felt it.
Yeah.
They're always the most dangerous people.
Yeah.
And you used to feel like they just did not think women were funny. I got up against that all the time, that women weren't funny.
Well, in the early SNL days, I mean, I remember reading the Tom Shales book and how Belushi was women aren't funny. If it was Belushi wouldn't do a sketch that was written by one of the women writers. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
it's insane. What was you've talked, I read in a recent interview about obviously the political correctness today. Talk to me about kind of the dichotomy, both in those early days as a woman, what you couldn't do that you could do today because women are in a different place, but what you could do that you couldn't do today. Like I could see it cutting both ways in a strange way.
I was actually. I think it was really before me that I think the Joan Rivers and the Phyllis Dillers, and I think they had a rougher time. I think that something about them that I never connected to was that they were always self-deprecating.
Yes.
Cody Fields.
They probably felt
And
they had to. They probably felt that
I
was the way.
think they had to.
Yeah.
I think that the audience would not have accepted them if
Yeah.
they were not self-deprecating.
Yeah.
By the time I came along in the mid 80s, I never even considered that.
Yeah.
I just was who I was, and I talked about sex, and I talked about having sex with younger guys because that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
I just talked about my life.
You ho. Right.
Single and I think that I was groundbreaking in that way, that women weren't talking about sex in that way as though it was something enjoyable.
Yeah.
That like we weren't allowed to like it in
Yeah.
a certain way in the earlier years. So I think that I never thought about political correctness. I always thought about my little, thing going up my spine,
Yeah.
my internal compass thing about whether it felt good or it didn't feel good. And it's funny because I was talking to a comic the other day, and we were talking about that thing, that little lie that you start to feel when you're on stage. But we were allowed in those days to just push the envelope.
Yeah.
Nobody had cell phones. Nobody was tweeting while you were on stage. Nobody was recording you. You could really, really go out there and push the envelope. And that's how you grow, and that's how you develop, and that's how you start to say, okay, this is too far. This is working. I could push it this. And I think if you're not willing to take those chances as a comic, then what's the point?
Okay, I want to talk to you about ID Tech. ID Tech is the world leader in STEM education. Your kids will explore science, tech, engineering, and math. That's STEM, science, tech, engineering, and math, topics not covered in school, as they are prepared for a future that demands literacy in these crucial fields. Guys, you're raising kids. This is the area that everybody's going to be hiring and continue to grow. Right now, they're offering a great deal. You can save $150 on weekly small group semesters or get started with a one-on-one tutoring session for just $49. So if you want your kids to have learning more on science, tech, engineering, and math, this is the place to go. It's fantastic. ID Tech is where kids and interns learn from the best. Their live instructors make learning fun with engaging courses in coding, design, game development, math, even robotics. Curriculum is developed in partnership with top universities like MIT. With one-on-one tutoring and weekly small group semesters, there's something for every kid. So like if you feel your kid's not getting enough on technology and nothing on engineering in school, or not even enough math or any of this kind of stuff, science, if you have that kid, if you have that science math kid, this is what you want. Go to idtech.com/Donny right now and use code Donny to save $150 on weekly small group semesters. For a limited time, you can also get started with a one-on-one tutoring session for just $49. A friend of mine just started this with their kid and they love it. That's code Donny at idtech.com/Donny to save $150. And your child can start learning online from a live instructor right now. idtech.com/Donny. Check it out. Math, science, technology, engineering. If your kid's interested in any of them, this is going to up the game. Okay, I want to talk to you about Indeed. And if you're hiring, any kind of hiring, you need Indeed. Indeed is a hiring partner that gets you what you really want, a short list of quality candidates as fast as possible, because you can do it all, attract, interview, and hire all in Indeed. Look, not everybody can afford a human resources department. And this is like having your own HR department. It's like having 500-person HR department. You're a small business. Don't struggle on your own to find quality candidates. Indeed can help you hire the right people right now. They help you every step of the way. Find the talent and skills you need through tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. With Instant Match, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your description. You can even invite them to apply right away. With Instant Match, over 90% of employers get quality candidates as soon as they sponsor their job posts, according to Indeed. And this is really interesting. Candidates you invite to apply through Instant Match are 3 times more likely to apply your job than those who only see it in search, according to Indeed data. So get started right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/onbrand. Get a $75 credit at Indeed.com/onbrand, Indeed.com/onbrand, offer valid through December 31st. Terms and conditions applied. Need to hire, you need to Indeed. This is your own human resources place. You want to hire, go to Indeed. I'm always curious, and Seinfeld's talked a lot about this, how you guys write. You know, Seinfeld's got, he said he's got thousands of yellow Lego pads. Are you, is your kind of creative arc where, you come up with an idea and you write a joke down, and then a week later you have another one, and then all of a sudden you have a set? I mean, how do you kind of bring you material to life?
Jerry is a very disciplined writer, and
Yes.
he knows how to craft a joke. I mean, he's a craftsman.
Right.
Like, he really crafts a joke. I did never work that way. I tried, it never worked for me. I wrote on stage. I would have, which is why I always had so much anxiety.
Right.
It was so anxiety provoking. I would have a premise. I would have something that I thought was funny. Maybe I'd be talking to Joy on the phone that morning, and something would come into my head. I'd be like, I'm going to try that tonight. And then I would get on stage, and it was almost as though I had to come up with a punchline, because it was a gun to my head in front of the audience, and it would come to me.
So you would get up with a 8 or 10 minute set and you didn't have the whole thing planned out?
No.
Wow.
Rarely did I have it planned out. And then once the punchline would come to me in front of, either 10 people or 1,000 people, you never know what it is. And then I would be, okay, that's the joke. And then I would start to hone it on stage. I would hone it. I'd play with the wording. I'd play with the rhythm. And then, in the beginning, you get your 10 minutes, and then it seems like you have this 10 minutes for like the longest time, because then you take stuff out and then you add stuff in, and eventually you develop your set. It takes a really long time to have a really tight hour.
Yeah. Hours a lot. I mean, you really think about it.
That's a lot.
All right, let's talk about the birth of Susie Green and how this happened, because you're so entwined with the character, and probably one of my favorite 5 favorite characters in any medium of all time.
Thank you.
Before I knew you, before we knew each other personally and became friends, you fucking come on the screen and I start fucking laughing. And I actually think that you are, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, you're in a weird way, the anchor character, because you're the, I think the way the audience expresses their rage at so much is going on, but in a playful way. You're a foil. It was interesting. I was reading how that you weren't in the pilot and how it felt you were really missed in that pilot, that you not being there, not having that voice.
Well, in the beginning, so there was this character of Jeff's wife. And I don't really remember if Larry saw people, but in 1999, I did a friar's roast of, which, by the way, let me just say, I stopped being a friar when they started naming the monastery after Jerry Lewis, who was another person who claimed that no women are funny.
Yeah.
That it turned his stomach to watch a woman on stage knowing that she could be a mother.
Right.
And that's when I had to leave.
Yeah.
But since then, there's been other issues there. But it was a friar's roast of Jerry Stiller, and it was aired on Comedy Central. And, in roasts, working a roast I work a roast a very different way than I would work a roast. You have to have your jokes. You better have your setups.
Yeah.
You better write it all ahead of time. There was no spontaneity with me in a roast unless something came to me while I was sitting on the dais that I thought of to say. So I worked really hard on that roast, and I had my set. And if I recall, Comedy Central didn't want me to be on that roast. They nixed me. The Friars Club
motherfuckers, right? Okay, right.
But finally, I guess they figured they could cut me out. Roasts are really hard.
Yeah,
you're in that Hilton Grand Ballroom with the high ceiling, and the laughs go.
Right. Yeah.
It's a low ceiling. So anyway, I was on the roast and I killed. And Larry had this idea for this character of Jeff's wife who had a filthy mouth. And I hadn't seen him in 10 years.
Yeah.
He moved to LA. He was doing Seinfeld. And he called me up one day and he offered me the part. I remember the call. I was like, Susie, it's LD. I was like, oh, hi, laugh. I haven't talked to you in 10 years. What do you want? He's like, I have this part for you. And I said, what's the part? He said, don't worry about it. You could do it. And I said, send me a script. He's like, there's no script. There's no money. I worked day scale for the first 4 seasons, I think, or whatever. We were just this kind of under the radar slap that, we have no script. It's just improvised.
We'll talk about that. Yeah.
The first season there was a scene where Jeff has a Fresh Air Fund kid come into our house to live with us, and the kid robs us blind.
Right.
So Larry gives me the direction. This is the first real Susie Green scene. I had a couple other innocuous scenes. And he says, rip Jeff a new asshole. That's what I want you to do. And I was like, all right, I could do that. I've been in relationships. No big fucking deal, So I start screaming at him and yelling at him and cursing. And he kept on saying, go further. And finally pulls me aside. He said, make fun of Jeff's fat. I said, I don't want to do that, Larry. That's not my style. I don't like to make fun of people's physical characteristics, unless it's certain people's hairdos.
Right.
But Mobius strips. But he was like, just do it. He knows you're only acting. So I did. And that's the first time I called him a fat fuck. And then it was just, I don't know, the Larry and I and all the, we've been doing this since 2000.
You said you've never discussed the character.
We have never discussed the character.
It's amazing.
Never discussed the character. We have a tremendous respect and trust for one another. We're very close, and we just have like a dialogue of the unconscious. We know what each other's doing. And he started to see what I was doing and write more towards it. And I started to see what he wanted and go more towards that.
Because originally Susie was not a major, you just had you were in a few episodes.
No,
and as you said, it was
star for several seasons.
Yeah.
And then I developed this way she dressed. That
was what I found interesting also in reading up, is that so much of it comes from, you said you start from the outside. You got these people to buy these garish clothes from Loehmann's, which is no longer around now, these very kind of gaudy outfits. And then you said you worked I found this fascinating. You developed the character by kind of getting dressed first and from the outside, and it kind of inspired, if you will.
Yeah. Well, I also know who she, it's funny because people think she's me, and I have no desire to play me. I'm with me all the time,
Right.
And I wanted her to be this character that is totally and completely secure in everything she does, whether it's how she dresses, her opinions. She's completely reactive. Somebody says something to her, boom, she responds and she doesn't second guess. I'm a comic. Comics never behave that way. We
Right.
analyze everything.
Yes.
We're insecure. We're second guessing. It's nothing like me. But there were these girls that I remember in high school who they just seemed, I guess their mothers really loved them or something, but I didn't have that. They always seemed so secure and
Yeah.
for no real apparent reason.
Yes.
Like they were average in every possible
Yes.
way.
Right.
But they always seemed so secure. And I always like marveled at them because that was not me.
Yeah. That's amazing. So I want to talk about you touched on it, and this is, I don't know if the average person even knows this, about how this is actually, how Curb is created, that you basically get a paragraph describing, okay, here's what's, take me through, for instance, okay, here's the scene, here's what we get, and then here's how it plays out. Because there's really nothing else like it. I actually did a one season, I don't know if you know this, I did a show called Donny on USA, which was similar, I don't even compare it to Curb, but in the sense I played a fictionalized version of myself, but there was a lot of me in it, and we did it the same way. I thought it was great.
Like a Larry Sanders.
It was. I played a cheesy talk show host, a daytime talk show host, and we actually shot it in my home, and so we did it that way. Obviously, I'm not even putting myself in the same universe, but talk to me about that process and how that works.
Well, I'm sure it was very funny, but what you didn't have was Larry's story brain.
Yes,
because Larry, Larry's so brilliant, but I think one of his main things is his sense of story and the way that he puts everything. If you take apart in any episode, you see the weaving and the callbacks and how everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
So we get an outline. They used to be 7 pages. Now they're like 12. They've gotten so much more dense over the seasons. This season is like crazy dense. Each episode is more than 30 minutes. Let's put it that way. So the outline, there's a paragraph that tells you what's happening in the scene. So we know what has to happen in the scene. There's no dialogue.
So for instance, it will give me a scene and exactly what they'll say. It can be from an old episode or a new episode or whatever.
Okay.
I know you want to talk about the new stuff, but.
Let me think. The ski lift.
Yes.
That's Larry's favorite episode,
Okay.
one of my favorite episodes. Susie has to pretend to be Larry's Orthodox wife, and they're in the ski lodge, and they're talking to, I forgot his name, Ben, who's head of the kidney consortium, and his daughter, and have to try to convince them that they're married.
Right.
Just like that.
Okay.
And then we go. And we know what information, it might be more detailed. Richard Lewis is mentioned at some point as needing a kidney or some such thing. So we know where we have to go. And usually, sometimes we get it right away. Usually it takes us about 7 or 8 takes till we find the scene.
Yeah.
Then we set the scene and we do it many times.
Yeah. That's so you actually, though, because it's funny, this is the same process. You ad lib, and then once you get it, then you're kind of doing it scripted, but version of that. But it didn't start on paper. It just happened there.
And I'll always throw something new in. Yeah. So all of us, always throw something new in. But you don't want to sabotage, because when you're improvising, the most important, and listen, Donny, you know this, you're a great interviewer. The most important thing is listening.
Listening, yes, 100%.
Listening, which is what I think most people lack the ability to do in life.
Yes. No, that is the most important thing about interviewing. You talked about how much or little there is of you in the character. Take me through both in Jeff and Larry and Cheryl, how much of them is in the character, because they're so layered that you look at Jeff and you go, well, that's him. You know what I mean? That's got to be him. I mean, it's just you can't. It's just the grace with which you guys play it. So kind of unwind each character and say, well, ironically, Jeff is very short, right?
Cheryl is such a great example, because Cheryl is a truly fantastic improvisational actor. Cheryl Hines is nothing like Cheryl David. Cheryl Hines is, do you know Cheryl at all?
I interviewed her once years ago. Don't know her personally, no.
Cheryl is like so, Cheryl is so much fun and so game for everything. It's like all the things that bother her about Larry in the scenes that she plays, Cheryl Hines would just laugh those things off.
Right.
Whereas Cheryl David is the pragmatist and the boy. She's completely different than her character.
And Jeff?
Completely. Jeff, Jeff plays the buffoon in a certain way. He plays like, just nothing like that at all. Jeff has an opinion about everything. Jeff's really funny in real life, whereas his character is not a funny. He's
the butt
funny
of the joke.
in the
He's the butt of the joke.
Yeah, but he's playing the manager. Larry's the most interesting because Larry has told me he aspires to be that character. He aspires to be the guy that you run into him on the street and you say, "Hey, let's give me your email. Let's get together for lunch." Who says, "No, we're never going to get together. I have no interest in having lunch for you."
Right.
But in real life, he's a very sensitive, caring, loyal, incredibly loyal friend. And he's our leader. And in Seinfeld also, he ran the entire show.
Sure.
You can't be that jerky character and run a show like that and have hundreds of people working for you
and loyal to
who
you.
are just incredibly loyal to you. I mean, the crew loves Larry and is incredibly loyal to Larry. So, but it is his id.
Yeah.
And that's why, and I think it's most people's ids.
I only met Larry once. It was interesting.
The background if you hear it, but the leaf blowers drive you crazy in this world.
That's quite right. I only met Larry once. I was very flattered. I was standing in front of the Beverly Hills Hotel, and he stopped me, and he said, "Donny," and I said, "Larry, how are you?" He goes, "Yeah, Friday mornings on Morning Joe, right?" He knew the day I was on Morning Joe. I was very flattered because I just think he's just fantastic.
And he's a very kind person. However, he does think all those things.
Yeah.
He is the guy that wants to call out and tell the truth and say the things that everybody else is thinking, but are afraid to say. But he doesn't do it in real life. In real life, he has tact and he has sensitivity, but he does think those things. And we will be, at certain things and texting each other back and forth, making each other laugh, saying the things that we're really thinking, but that we would never say.
You also talked in one of the more recent seasons, or maybe 3 or 4 years ago, that you channeled a lot of the rage from our newly elected president at the time. That was
not
kind
our newly elected, our ex-president.
Well, I'm saying at the time, I mean, he after he got elected, that you kind of like
my rage towards him is still.
You and I have spoken many times about
right
this.
there to be tapped.
Yeah,
yeah. When the rage is kind of easy for me to tap into, and actually, it's one of the things that's interesting about the character is what I think that Susie Green has done for women, just from what they tell me, is she's given them permission to be angry, because women are not generally allowed to be angry. We're told, at least how I was brought up, be nice little girls and be sweet and you get more with sugar than vinegar and blah, 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 blah. And I think that women are rageful all the time and for good reason. Mm-hmm. So I think that I've given permission, that the character's given permission for a lot of women to be angry, which I enjoy. I'm happy about that. There's always something to be angry at. I remember previous seasons when I was raising teenagers, I could always get into a rage about something. Yeah. Politics, whatever it is, it's easy for me to tap into. However, I'm not that angry of a person in real life.
No, you're not.
So it's kind of this release.
It's a great, that must be a lot of fun. Relief. A lot of fun. You, I want to just talk a little politics. You're very political. I know you're a big MSNBC person. We talk politics. Explain to me, as best as you can, just as a humanist or behaviorist, I understood the first time around how people could take a flyer on Trump. In other words, okay, I don't like Hillary, and maybe he's just saying these things to get elected. We need something different. But that the fact that 40% of this country could have seen that act for 4 years and put their thumbs up and said, yes, give us more of that. What does that say to you about who we are? Is it, give me your analysis as you step back and go, okay, well, 120 million people in this country, or whatever the number is, thought that's a good idea.
I don't have an answer. I have some things that I think about it, but it's deeply hurtful to me. I feel tremendous sense of mourning and sadness. I had dinner with a friend last night who's a member of a country club, a golf club, and he used to play golf with all these guys that are a lot of Republicans in the club. He used to play golf with all of them, and there was a teasing thing going on, and they knew who he was. And he said that post-Trump, all of that changed. The shift became so ugly that there was no longer a teasing thing going on.
Yeah.
No, on either side. There's an ugliness that we've seen right now that I'm not surprised about it, because if you look through history, we know that that exists in our DNA and our ability. I think that it has to do with tribalism, and I think that's deeply embedded in us, and demonizing the other, but as a civilized human being, you need to rise above that. You need to recognize that about yourself. It's like, your sexual urges. You're going to act out and have sex like a bonobo, every single person that you see. No, you, as a civilized person, you take control of that. And you say,
I learned that as I got older, yes.
Very late you learned it, Donny.
Learned it later than most.
One of my favorite lines was when I did that party of yours, and I said, any woman in this room who has not gone out with Donny Deutsch.
Yes, you were very gracious. On my 60th birthday, you did a set and you killed. I mean, it was just, you just ripped me apart. But here was what I thought was so brilliant about what you did. You knew the line. You took a lot of shots at me, but it was so artful in that you put your toes right on the line. And I don't remember exactly every joke, but you gave it to me good, but it was with love and it was done, it was a roast. But that was a highlight for me.
But that comes from, 35 years of experience.
Yeah.
You learn how to do that. That's what I was saying in the very beginning of our discussion about it, how it's so important as a comic to be able to push that envelope when you're first starting, and to be able to go out on the edge, and you start to learn, where is that line?
Yeah.
And the line is always shifting, and how you shift with it. And as you become more famous, the line shifts. And so that's from a lot of years of experience.
So what can we, you're probably, sworn to secret. They will take your next male born if you say anything, but can you say anything about the upcoming season?
Right before I came on here, I texted Larry and I said, can I mention any of our guest stars that are coming up?
Okay.
And he said, he wrote, who can I mention? He said, mention all of them.
Oh, wow.
So I can tell you, we have a lot of great guests. Woody Harrelson is on this season. Bill Hader is on this season.
Wow. Okay. Now, are they playing themselves or are they playing characters?
No, Bill Hader is not playing himself.
Okay.
Woody Harrelson is playing. We always have that.
Sure, of course.
Ted is back. Richard Lewis, thank God, was able to do one episode.
He's okay. He's healthy. He's all right.
He had so many. He had a lot of back surgeries.
Yeah, I know.
And he was written into more that he was able to do, but he was able to do one. I actually just saw that one. Who else? Patton Oswalt is playing a character. Rob Morrow is playing her. Lucy Liu is playing herself.
That's great.
Tracy Ullman. Has a 4-episode arc. She is not playing herself. She's playing a character.
Oh my God.
And she's brilliant.
Oh, genius.
Just brilliant.
Genius.
But he sent me the list. Who else? Julie Bowen. Vince Vaughn is back playing Freddie Funkhauser. He's really, really funny this season. Kelly Cuoco. Is that how you pronounce her name?
Yes.
And who else? I'm forgetting people.
That's amazing.
We have a lot of,
that's exciting.
John Hamm does a little cameo.
Okay. John Hamm was John Hamm when he was on in the past.
Yes, and he's John Hamm again.
My career highlight was in Billions. I played myself. I had a cameo playing myself. I mean, it was just that was my kind of career highlight. But that sounds amazing. And do you pick up where last season last end, where his shop got burned to the ground, his coffee shop?
No, that's all. It's mentioned in What Happened to Mocha Joe, but no, that's all. It's the premise this season is so silly. I can't even tell you.
Okay.
It's just.
But there's a thread. Ridiculous. There's a thread through the season. That
always.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
There's always one or two or three. Well, that's what I was saying about the improvisation. But let me just get back to that. It's all about story. Everything that you do is about story. And Larry doesn't like anybody to read the outlines. He lets me read them, of course.
Right.
But because he doesn't want any of the guest stars coming up with like funny sitcom lines.
Yeah.
Because then it's just bad sitcom lines. So you get to set. He tells you what the scene is about, and then we just play with it. It's just
so
play.
You don't even. He doesn't. For instance, I didn't realize this part. So he literally will hand the script to the person on the set and say, "Here's the scene." So they don't. It's not even like they get it the day before to even think about it.
Correct. And I don't even think I don't even think they read it. I think they're just told.
So that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Wow.
I read it and I like to know about it because I like to know a couple of things. I like to know what's happening before my scene. Is somebody screaming and yelling at him before my scene? Because if that's the case, then I'm going to tone it down.
Sure, yeah.
And give it different color.
Yeah.
And I also like to just know, when you're a regular character, there's so much going on throughout the script that you kind of need to know it.
Was there one line that came out of you that you just kind of said, I can't believe that just came out of me? Because you're just emoting. So, I mean, is there anything where you're like, oh my fucking God, I can't believe I just said that?
Yeah. Yes.
Anyone
I think it was season 3. Was it season 3? I think it was season 3 when it's the restaurant opening and there's Paul Sand is the Tourette syndrome
chef, right?
Larry thinks he's a Holocaust survivor because he's got numbers on his arm.
Right.
When really they were just lottery numbers. And then everybody starts to scream and yell and shout out curses. I am not there. I walk in later on. Cheryl screams out, something, goddamn son of a bitch or whatever. She's looking at me and I respond to her and I say, fuck you, you car wash cunt. I had a dental appointment. It's a word I never use, not dental appointment.
Wow.
It's a word I never use. I used it and it became legendary.
That's legendary.
The only time I've used that word in all 11 seasons.
My favorite scene with you, I don't know why the episode is with your daughter's doll's head. And,
get me the fucking head.
What's the voodoo shit you do fucks and do it?
Yeah. That was season 2.
Right.
A long time ago. And that was actually the first, it's one of my favorite episodes because it happens to be anybody who is listening to this and wants to learn how to write comedy, take that episode apart and just see how it's crafted. It's a perfectly crafted half hour of comedy.
This is from from the second season.
Yeah. And it's the first time that you hear that I get that spaghetti Western theme music.
Right, yes.
And it's the first time that you see that these two, Larry and Jeff, are living in fear.
Right.
I just love that.
There's sometimes there's 2 shots of the 2 of them when you're going at it with them. And just this hapless boobs who are just like 2 little idiots who are just busted, and it's just,
and they think they're smarter than me.
It's just genius. So what can we look forward to next? I mean, you have this amazing kind of foundation. Maybe it'll be another season, maybe not. Who knows? But any exciting things you're thinking about or want to do coming up in the near future?
I just love to work, Donnie.
Yeah.
I love to work. I love I love hanging out with the crew. I love the camaraderie of being on set. I would love to get something to do in New York.
Yeah.
Because I live here.
Yes, you do.
But right now, there's nothing going on. I had a show in development at Hulu, and then they passed on it. So I think that we're going to try to go out and pitch that again. That was, Broad City, I played.
Yes, you were the mother, right.
And this was a spin-off of
Broad
that.
City was a great, under the radar for a few seasons on you.
Those girls, I have such admiration. Here's an example. Abby Jacobson and Alana Glazer, who created the show, they started it out as a webisode.
Yes.
They couldn't get arrested. And then Comedy Central picked it up, and then it became big. And luckily, I was lucky enough to play Alana's mother and work with them because they're brilliant, brilliant girls. They, they're what are they, 30 years younger than me? More. They're more than 30 years younger than me. They wrote, directed, produced, started. Those things were not on the menu when I was coming up. I didn't know I could do all that. Yeah. And so I kind of feel that they say that I laid, me and my contemporaries, Joy and all of us, that we laid the groundwork for them. So that makes me really, really happy because they didn't even think twice about it. They just
That's
did
what they were doing. Susie Essman, you are a mensch. Thank you. I know how busy you are. Thank you for taking the time. I'm your friend. I'm a fan. I love you, sweetheart. Thank you so much.
Friday morning, Donnie.
All right, babe. You stay well, all right? Thanks for listening to the podcast today. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe everywhere you get podcasts. That's Spotify, that's Apple, or anywhere else. So rate, review, and subscribe. It really helps us. And also, you can watch videos on YouTube. And also, leave your comments and subscribe on YouTube also. If you like our show, we want to hear from you. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see everybody next week on Brand. Everybody, thanks for watching. If you like it, hit that subscribe button. And we love having you here watching On Brand. And just don't miss any future episodes. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time.